There's like a mix of people at the FBI who are like, this guy is going to destroy the United States intelligence community, and people who are like, thank God this guy's such a fucking idiot.
Kash Patel.
Kash Patel with a barn burner story by Sarah Fitzpatrick in The Atlantic called The FBI Director is MIA, which outlined Kash Patel's drinking to excess and him being on the job and the concerns around it.
Yeah, anytime you're behaving like me on the Clinton campaign when I was 25 years old and drunk in Manhattan and Brooklyn, you know, when I made it in, not good. If you're the FBI director, especially bad.
That is right. I do not think Hillary Clinton should have appointed you to run the FBI.
No, nor frankly even to be a mid-level spokesperson, but nevertheless I persisted.
The details were amazing. On multiple occasions in the last year, members of his security detail had difficulty waking Patel because he was seemingly intoxicated, and they needed a request for breaching equipment normally used by SWAT and hostage rescue teams to quickly gain entry into the building.
So incredible.
Have you ever been so fucked up that they needed to, like,
I've just never been important enough that the hostage team was coming to bail me out. Certainly roommates, but
Yeah.
the hostage team, that's really next level stuff.
Back in your day, it was just the shoulder.
Exactly. They're like, dude, buddy.
Work was 3 hours ago.
You got to transcribe Meet the Press. It's very important.
But Patel's colleagues at the FBI worry his personal behavior has become a threat to personal safety. Current and former officials have long worried about what would happen in the event of domestic terror attack while Patel is in office, with apprehension increasing given the military campaign against Iran, who famously loves to do terror.
Yes, not big fans of American safety.
Yeah, I would say that. And then FBI officials and others privately have questioned whether alcohol played a role in the instances in which he shared inaccurate information. So his friends are like, no, dude, it's good. He was just drunk posting that they got the brown shooter,
It's absolutely insane. Totally insane.
God love it. There's this thing with Patel, though, where he is, like, in many ways, like a Trump 1 character. Like, where it's like, he is ruthlessly incompetent.
Yes.
Like, bad at his job.
Right.
In a way that defangs the true, the true scale of the damage he can do.
Yes, it does seem like there's like a mix of people at the FBI who are like, this guy is going to destroy the United States intelligence community, and people who are like, thank God this guy's such a fucking idiot that is like so busy shotgunning beers with the hockey team, because otherwise it would be a goddamn nightmare.
Interestingly, the thing with Patel, because there's all these stories about him. There was the story from the post Charlie Kirk shooting where he wouldn't come off the plane until he had an FBI jacket.
Yeah, and then they were like, the only one they had was like a women's medium, and he like wouldn't wear it.
He wouldn't wear it, but it wasn't that he wouldn't wear it. He would wear it, but
he wanted the patch. He needed the nice patch.
So they needed to find
That's what all the cool kids are wearing.
So the story details he recently expressed frustration with the look of FBI merchandise, complaining it isn't intimidating enough. He needs stronger merchandise.
He's like, we don't even sell any of the female body inspector shirts. That is a hilarious joke. We need that. Like, what are we doing?
That does have to be the top selling FBI merch. As it goes.
Yes, it's right up there with like phone tapping brown people. The number one FBI merch for 20 years running.
Kash not taking this sitting down, though. His lawyer reaching out, sending a letter to The Atlantic and Sarah Fitzpatrick saying that they will see them in court. This is the letter they sent in advance. I do need to note, Kash, maybe get a better lawyer. This dude just listed out all the complaints. It was just like, just to say it out loud, number one, they say that in the past year, his detail security had difficult waking him. It's like...
It is incredible.
It's like a rack and stack.
A blanket,
It's like
false.
a DNC
False
press release.
Yeah, exactly.
As a lawyer. But then here's the thing. The Daily Beast laying out that the lawyer put two things in that were not actually in the article.
Which does make me think that Kash Patel just has like a giant list of fucked up things that he's done. And they're just like, which ones do we need to pull in? He's like, it seems like they're going to go with 1 through 14.
Too many to even list.
Just throw them in there preemptively.
Unbelievable. But yes, saying that in the lawyer letter, he says that the shop was shut down because of the merch not being intimidating enough. The article does not make that claim. So now you're like, did he shut down the store over the merch?
Also, this is just not like the fact that that's even it's like, actually, we kept the store open while I was demanding that we made more intimidating shirts. I don't think merch has never been intimidating.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Merch is famously not intimidating.
You think J. Edgar Hoover was like going down to the souvenir shop?
I mean, he had some dressing issues, from my understanding.
That is true.
Of the cross variety, but not.
Yeah, right. He really cared about that. He cared.
Right.
So is there something more feminine here?
Exactly.
My wife is running for governor of South Dakota.
Exactly. Maybe that's when the merch stopped being so intimidating. They went femme forward.
Anyway, Kash on TV this morning laying out that, yes, he is going to sue in this very intimidating statement to Maria Bartiromo.
And so, you know what? They can beat their drums and stand next to toxic waste all they want, but that doesn't make it toxic waste. And Maria, I'm happy to announce on your show that we are not going to take this laying down. You want to attack my character? Come at me. Bring it on. I'll see you in court.
So you're going to sue them?
Absolutely. It's coming tomorrow.
It's amazing. He like sticks to the line. She's like, "So what? You're suing?" And he's like, "Yes."
Just to clarify, because I have no idea what they're beating their drums next to a toxic waste pile. I'm not sure what that means, but are you confirming that you are going to sue them? Is that what you're trying to say?
That is, yeah. There are definitely like lib protests where they've beaten drums next to toxic.
Next to toxic waste. Yeah. This super site will not stand. Incredible.
Man, but I thought this tweet was very funny. The FBI director is posting like a free agent wide receiver.
It is incredible. It's like AJ Brown vibes. Like T.Y. Hilton is like about to run the post for the FBI.
Unbelievable.
What
truly
are we doing?
Yeah, truly wild. But the markets do not think Kash Patel is long for the world here. Basically, Kash in the Kalshi markets, they think 81% odds he's out before August, 79% odds on Polymarket. Polymarket thinks he's going to be around a little bit longer, but that's because they're busy doing the crimes. They're like, this guy.
I was going to say, Kash is going to be like, sir, I only ask one thing. Give me like 15 minutes notice before you fire me so I can absolutely hammer Kash Patel out by the like earliest date possible. And that's all I'm asking. Is that
Kash? That's totally right. Because I was thinking, Kash Patel's got to be so stoked that he's on Polymarket for sure. Yeah.
Also, like, is he? I guarantee you, he's like talking to Bongino right now. He's like, dude, help me get set up with a podcast. Like, I'm gonna make my big return, because that's the like real kicker to all this stuff. Is like these guys are like low key annoyed that this took them away from their real job as clout guys. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like the FBI director is just like a pedestal to like the stepping stone to get to like elite podcaster status.
And I say this as an elite podcaster right now.
Elite.
It is better out here.
But if we were former FBI directors, think about how many more listeners we would have.
Think about how many more listeners we would have.
And how sick our merch would be.
Oh, dude, our merch
so
would be
intimidating. Big scary merch.
We'll get a shop up soon enough. There's like 12 of you here. It's
like
great.
Freddy and Jason masks. Like, what is it? What kind of? I've never seen intimidating merch in all of my life.
Well, have you seen? I'm sure we could pull it up, but the challenge coins he has.
Oh yeah, the challenge coins.
Punisher.
He's like literally just like a loser playing like role playing games online.
100%. Well, this is my thing with Kash Patel. I really like. I almost feel somewhat bad. Just bear with me.
I would not like to bear with you, but I'll.
But I always feel bad for him because you feel the hole in his heart that like he is trying to fill. Like you imagine Kash Patel every night on his race car bed, just like being like, but what about me? Like we have.
Right. It is. Yeah. I mean, trying to fill the holes in their heart is like a good running theme for like we've got Trump. I would say falls into that category. He's like, if only my dad had loved me, I wouldn't have to do this war in Iran.
That's exactly. Yeah. Here's Kash in his race car bed right now, looking just great. He's got his little jammies.
I don't know whether the AI is getting better or this is just like such a believable situation, but that looks really good.
Looks really real. That's at his apartment where he's with his country girlfriend who's in a different room.
Alexis.
But like it is like when you see these photos of him where he's like sitting in the luxury box next to like Wayne Gretzky, it's just like this guy just wants the ride, dude.
It's crazy, dude. There was another. I don't even have it in here, but there was a big New York Times story earlier this year that was like all these FBI people on the record, former agents and current people anonymously, and they're basically saying that like when they had their big Five Eyes meeting, which is with our most important intelligence intelligence sharing partners like the UK and Australia and New Zealand, and he's like the only thing that he cared about was what his itinerary was, when he was going to be able to like work out, and whether he could go to Premier League games and go jet skiing. And they were like, sir, this is not a field trip. This is like to discuss the most urgent threats. And then they had to like lean on him him super heavy because he was like, I really want to tweet out a picture. They were like, sir, there are sources in this who are like not been unmasked yet. You cannot tweet out the picture of like you and all the like top intel guys that are spies that are still undercover. He's like, but I really want to.
But it's kind of fun, you know?
It's crazy.
Totally crazy. But this brings us to an important segment, which is, look, he's going to be gone within the year. You know, it's not going to be long for this world. And so I think we just need to suggest to him a couple of places where he can party before he goes. Because I just think the thing about Kash is that he is trying to have a good time. That's the big thing. And it's that he just wants to use this job to hang out with the boys. So here's, you know, we got some opportunities. So here are the top 5. We're actually going to do a bonus 6 places.
I'll kick it off with the
Kash
bonus.
Party next. All right, number 6.
Number 6, an interrogation. I mean, that seems like one of the most likely destinations. So.
Yeah, you can imagine him being in the room. He walks in, he sits down backwards on his chair and is like, you and me, partner. We're going to do-si-do. And then the other guy's like, oh, man, that's pretty sick. And he's like, I know. And then they're like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I can totally
walk into it thinking that he's doing the investigating. Yeah. And then he's like, oh, I'm the subject. I'm the target of this investigation.
Sorry, just let me put this beer down. By the way, AI definitely has its limits. No, this is a photograph, obviously, but I do love the right arm is just is painting the wrong way.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, you know, we got kicks.
Break it playing hockey.
It'll destroy the economy later. Number 5, at a meeting with his sponsor. Man, you know, he shows up and he's like, you know, a little disappointed.
The fucked up part is the American taxpayer is sponsoring all of this.
Yeah, exactly. We are his sponsor.
We sponsor you, and you can sponsor us. Maybe his podcast will sponsor our podcast.
This is exactly number 4.
I get leading an FBI raid of Senor Frogs. You can see him there doing his best work, trying to get to the bottom of what's on his top.
He's just like, fellas, wouldn't it be sick if we went and explored the margarita cabinet at Senor Frogs? Like, I just imagine they're all milling about. Too funny. Anyway, number 3, launching some missiles with Pete Hegseth, going out with the boys to the Strait of Hormuz, putting some party lights on a Challenger missile. That's not what you call them. On a ship.
Yep.
You know, having a great time.
We got number 2, Chuck E. Cheese on his book tour with his children's book about King Trump. I
feel like that is one of the most, like, when you zoom out and you're like, the man wrote a children's book about he and Mr. Trump going on and fighting QAnon. It's like, and then they were like, make that man the police.
And here's my enemies list, and now he's literally the FBI director. I mean, it's a tough timeline.
It's amazing. But of course, the number 1 place where he ought to get a party in while you still can is at Ruben Gallego's house, where I just think, you know, get the good times in, you know, while the good times can still be.
Tough.
The parties are over.
Tough.
Yep.
You know?
Anyway, I will say before we go, though, Kash Patel is not the only party animal in this administration. I think this has been a cabinet. I saw Ben from Midas Touch call it the liquor cabinet.
Yeah, that's good.
So I want to do a quick ranking. So we take a look now at the Trump Party Animal Index.
Trump Admin Party Animal Index.
All right. So, of course, we start with the first. Kash Patel, FBI director and children's book author, got so zooted that they needed a SWAT team and gets drunk and pretends to solve crime. And is that not so relatable?
That's the most party animal quality I can imagine.
I've been there a million times.
Yeah. Usually the crime is like, who has stolen my pants? And then I was like, it was me. I changed.
You just tweet out, I have found the pants.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sorry, correction. I have not found the pants.
I have found a pants. I have found a pants. It's a suspect. Could have been a different pants. We don't know.
All right, number 2, we have Christy Party Hound Gnome, former DH because of the dog shooting.
Because of the dog shooting. I got it.
Former DHS head now has some job.
Something about the shield. Something that
the shield.
America, the shield of America. It's a new job. Sounds like a rejected merch item for the FBI. The shield of the Americas? No, that's not a thing. Well, let's make Christy Gnome the head of it.
She's manning the register at the Hoover Building. This is what she's doing now. She spent money on private jets, a $70 million jet to refresh for the DHS head. And her boyfriend gets paid for contracts while her husband pays for femdom. So just living the party. In fact, live, we've got, not live, but we have it, we're going live to Mar-a-Lago. We have this video of her in action. from Kate's wife. Oh, look at her go. We're parking. I just want to go back to this, though. Stephen Miller looks like he's never had fun in his life.
I only have fun when I'm deporting someone.
And by the way, just pointing out that fucking at the Mar-a-Lago New Year's party, they have Vanilla Ice singing "Ice Ice Baby"
And
while they dance
with the deporters dancing to it. I get it.
Holy shit!
It's bleak.
Well, anyway, Peter the Deleter Hegseth, the Secretary of War, said he'd swear off the drink if he got to run the military, and then was given control of the military. So
and he seems super sober based on all of his.
I have seen nothing to make me suspect that there are any problems with good old Pete. However, of course, the famous thing at an office Christmas party at the Grand Hyatt in Washington, he was noticeably intoxicated and had to be carried up to his room. His favor was so embarrassing in front of the team, we could have simply expect Pete to get drunk at events. So we're back, and he's running. Been there, brother. And you're only in charge of a podcast with 100 listeners or 100 viewers. We have more, whatever. Anyway, it's fine. And then, of course, my favorite character in this entire Trump administration, I mean, out of all of them, is Lori the Fiesta Chavez de Rember, the U.S. Labor Secretary. She had leaked texts of her drinking on the job. She's had affairs with subordinates and taxpayer-funded vacations with staff. And the Times detailed this amazing line from the released text messages. Do they sell by the bottle? She asked. The staff member responded that she did, and they were out of rosé. Ms. Chavez de Rember responded with another selection. How about the Josh Savi B? And that's the thing. She's a working class lady.
Dude, Josh Savi B is like, I'm not saying it's worth it to have like the worst person running the labor department, but Savi B is an incredible addition to my lingo.
She's just like me for real, man. I mean, you ever
no rosé? What about the Josh Savi B?
Yeah, what about the Josh Savi B? Not even like a nice Savi B. We're going with the CBS. Josh.
We got to start calling Josh Shapiro Josh Savi B.
Josh Savi B.
He is a teetotaler, actually.
I was going to say he's a teetotaler. Yeah.
I have like a strong theory that we need a president who drinks. We haven't had a president who drinks since Obama.
Yeah.
And that's a ridiculous, like, I feel like there's something to being a normal person. I'm not going to, I know like both Joe Biden and Donald Trump have had their reasons for not drinking, but now we got a bunch of teetotalers. And like, I just, what happened to the beer test?
Can you imagine though? I think about this with Obama. Like, okay, Obama, who liked to drink and liked a cigarette time to time.
Like he used to smoke the weed back at Occidental College back in the day with the Choom gang.
Yeah. What? Like, it's sort of this thing of like, imagine, like we had a couple, we were out last night. We were social, which is what we do. We were invited to many events last evening, namely our own reservation for dinner, but
with our wives.
But I was thinking about it, like, imagine if you had like 2 drinks and you're just like, oh, I'm buzzed. Oh God. The world.
God.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I would.
No, I safe to say I would not be getting drunk if I was like the FBI director or the defense
as long
secretary.
as it wasn't Hillary appointing you, 15 years ago. Now,
it's just like
we are doing nothing to harm your potential nomination.
Yeah, I mean when they got Bin Laden, famously, like Dan Pfeiffer and a lot of the press guys had to come in. It was like during the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and they had to like come in at the next morning after all the like late night White House Correspondents' Dinners parties. So they're all just like so fucking hungover. And they're like, is this really a thing we need to come into the White House for? And they're like, very much yes. Yeah, you do. Like, we got Bin Laden. So they're all just super hungover. Which is funny. But
that's great.
Yeah. Hey, you. Yes, you. If you are enjoying the show, do us a solid, won't you? Like and subscribe to Nobody Knows Anything on YouTube and whatever channels you can follow us on. We'd really appreciate it.
2028 whip around.
Speaking of all the teetotalers seeking the presidency, let's do a little, you know my thing. I write a stupid newsletter in addition to our fake show. Nobody's listening.
It's not stupid.
It's not stupid. But it is very exhausting. And namely because no less than 10,000 Democrats are running for president in 2028. So let's do a little roundabout, a whip around, if you will.
Whip around.
Let's check in on some of the highlights of the last weekend and week. And I think we got to kick it off with Pete Buttigieg. There were a couple of clips, a couple from Pete and a couple from our boy Jon Ossoff, who we'll talk about in a minute here, but that were really making the rounds. And people were like, ooh, Democrats that can talk. That's fun. Here, I'll play
Been a minute.
This is Pete Buttigieg in Tulsa. He's been in Tulsa. He's been in Kansas. Like, he's making the rounds, and the crowds, like, he's turning out good crowds. They are into it and still good at talking.
And my word of warning to my own political party is that we would make a terrible mistake if we thought that our job was to just take power somehow and then put everything back the way it was. That's not what we're here to do. We're not out to go around and just find all the little bits and pieces of everything that they smashed and tape it together and say, here you go, I give you the world as it looked in 2023. That's not going to work. It's not what we need.
Good, still good. And like, I do think it's interesting. You know, I think a lot of people, it'll be frustrating for him, I imagine. But I think people now, having served in the Biden admin and having just, he kind of like is of the more centrist wing of the party. You know, he has always kind of been he was one of the first in 2020 to come out for filibuster, getting rid of the filibuster, getting rid of the electoral college, you know, a bunch of big structural reforms, expanding the court. But, you know, so I think this is totally the right message. I don't know if, even though that is what he's for, I don't know if people are going to buy that he is the guy for the change election here that we need. But I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about this clip?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this is the like basic Biden misdiagnosis was coming into office, winning because you were stability.
Right.
But then coming in and sort of saying, oh, well, people want to go back to normal. When actually people are like, no, I just don't want that.
Right.
And so I do think you have to kind of, and you see Harris trying to do the same thing. People are mad at the status quo. I think it is basically true. And I think that if a Democrat wins, like that's going to be the project and like the difficult political work, which is like, how do you rebuild everything that which is broken, but how do you build back better? But I do think there's, you know, it's good. It is going to be hard, I think, for anybody from the Biden administration to credibly be the change person without the next part of the sentence, which is here's everything that the administration got wrong that I disagreed on. And so I'm curious to see, you know, when Pete starts prosecuting that case, what that's going to look like. And I'm sure Pete is very good at talking. That will be interesting to hear.
Yeah, and to his credit, he's done some of that, which I thought was super interesting. I think it was in an interview with Tim Miller. He was like very quick to say, you know, we should have had kids back in schools faster after COVID, which I think is obviously true.
I think the holy triumvirate of what people in the administration who are going to run are probably going to say will be something like kids back in schools earlier, border. And, you know, probably like something to do with delivery or funds getting tied up in whatever.
And that was the other thing that he pointed to, exactly that. And Josh Shapiro has done this compellingly as well, which is like, if we say we're passing $42 billion for broadband, then people need to get the internet, you know, and if we can't deliver on those big ticket items, you know, then nobody's going to trust us to do other stuff. So, and the other thing I thought was interesting about this clip, like he does, I know I said this last episode, but he does just seem like more human, more emotive, more, you know, lighter and less like robotic than he was in 2020.
They upgraded the model.
The new models are so good.
Unbelievable.
They are so good. He still speaks 8 languages, but he never accidentally breaks into Norwegian or Klingon anymore. It's really.
He can do Klingon.
I mean, I imagine how many languages are there?
Because I do remember the Norwegian.
Yeah. That Klingon, I think, comes from like an SNL sketch.
I was gonna say because I remember I think I learned that he spoke Norwegian at the same time I saw him playing that song by Spoon on a piano, and I was like, oh, this.
Yeah, I mean, I do think. Yeah, I feel like the next nominee is not gonna speak Norwegian, but Pete, he's undervalued. He's very, very good.
Is there a market on that? Likelihood nominee speaks Norwegian.
Malm. I don't know. The only I was trying to do IKEA furniture.
Isn't
That's
that
the
Swedish?
Only. It's all Scandinavian to me, bro.
It's all the same.
All right, from Pete to Jon Ossoff, another talker that had the people talking.
Yeah.
But JD came to UGA to attack the Pope 2 days after Donald Trump depicted himself as Jesus Christ. The faithless president depicts himself as Christ while he plunges the nation into wars of choice, while he and his family rake in billions from foreign princes, while he plunders our health care to cut taxes for the rich. And remember, while you pay more for everything, the first family's wealth is growing by billions of dollars. Because they're crooks. And everybody knows it. The Mar-a-Lago Mafia has taken American corruption to spectacular new heights.
That's a good one.
I had to include the Mar-a-Lago Mafia.
Ossoff, man. So here's the thing. I think 2 things. One, there's this whole thing where like people talk about attention and you have to be, I've done this, constantly making content and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I like that you're about to put that down as we churn out like 18,000 Instagram videos a day.
Look at our clips.
All these people are so desperate for attention.
Yeah, these losers. But I do think that Ossoff does something really interesting, which is he pops up once every couple months, says something really smart and that is like provocative and new, and then goes away. And the clips like ricochet across the internet. And by the way, the other thing I've noticed is if you look at, we're gonna get like really technical here.
Yeah.
Like the depth of field on the cameras, like that's expensive.
Yeah,
like running a multicam with like nice cameras like that is not cheap. They are spending money on production value, and like the rally look, the nice footage, the clips that go on social, like it very clearly presents this. He is a momentum movement thing. It looks presidential, whether they intend that or not. Like they do a very good job with that. And I do think that like if you went to a barbecue that was mostly Democratic staffers in Washington, which it would be, tofu on the grill and, the acknowledgements or whatever. But I would say your average staffer, if push comes to shove, would say Ossoff is probably like the one that people get excited about.
Yeah, and I have been super high on Ossoff for a very long time. In fact, I have somewhere a screenshot of I actually bought in March of 2022 the John2024.com, so I was trying to convince our friends who worked for Ossoff that he should be running for president in March of 2022.
Way before.
Which is to say, I didn't think that Joe Biden was going to be the strongest candidate.
Yeah, another young upstart.
Exactly.
Instead, sort of
we were just 60 years his senior or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But so I'm very high on Ossoff. He is a phenomenal speech giver. I will say that is only one part of like the way you need to communicate in the modern political realm, and like he's a very serious person, which I think will be a welcome reprieve. I think that there actually will be some of the Axe always says people are looking for a remedy, not a reboot or something more eloquent than that. So I do think that like after Trump, being serious will be okay, but I also think people talk a lot about the podcasts and the authenticity and like, can you sit for 3 hours with Joe Rogan? I don't think that it's like necessarily Rogan that people are going to need to do, but I do think people are going to want someone who can just like be authentic and shoot the shit for like extended periods of time where they're not on talking points. Like, not that Ossoff can't do that, but I haven't really seen him do it.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, because the knock on Ossoff is always that he's an incredibly great orator, but that is the unknown of like, can he handle that? Is he good in that context? And we'll find out when he comes on our show. Senator, he's not coming on our show. He never will. But yeah,
see, that's part of his problem.
I was gonna say,
he won't even come.
Sorry, you're not speaking to independent journalists, Senator.
You don't want to be asked how many female body inspector shirts you've bought. That's the real test of his presidential.
His answer is not zero.
I mean, he was like a Georgetown a cappella guy. I don't think he was like a female body inspector guy.
Who's to say?
Which I'm not saying that's good or bad.
I know a cappella people, okay?
I don't. Yeah, you were like a film nerd. I was playing basketball.
No, at Ithaca College, we didn't have frats. The closest thing to frat parties were the a cappella parties. Ithaca Capella.
This is not convincing me that you are cool or that Jon Ossoff is cool.
Excuse me, I'm saying I'm curating cool vibes for who's going to be, Ithaca College.
We might have different definitions of cool. I got the receipt here. Like literal receipts. John2024.com.
You were out in front.
March of 2022.
You were out in front.
I would like to see him, unbutton. I think everyone would like to see him unbutton a couple buttons.
Yeah.
And just roll up the sleeves and get like a little bit, a little extemporaneous, a little off the cuff, a little like, just hanging with someone like a normal person.
Yeah.
But he's very, very good though. There's no doubt about that.
Our overhead lights just went out.
This is just the kind of thing that happens when you're live.
We look spooky as hell, which is great.
Spooky.
Welcome to our.
Should we just keep rolling?
Our Hitchcock movie. Yeah.
This is the kind of thing that'll happen.
Anyway, all right. Well,
right.
the rest of the show we're gonna look like a Hitchcock movie.
In real life, we're much more attractive. It's fine.
Yeah.
The New York Times. I'm just gonna whip through some of the other. It does feel like 2028 is just like already happening, already upon us, which it feels very early. I say this as a guy who literally has been writing a newsletter about it.
You're like, can it please be over?
Last year. Totally. I've listened to thousands of hours of these people. But Kamala, Cory Booker, and Andy Beshear were all in Detroit this weekend for Michigan Democratic Party's big annual event. And, that'll be an early state in addition to a swing state. I think definitely a swing state, but I think it'll be an early state as well in 2028.
I am your 5-minute flip the stage speaker because I know when we have a former vice president that is in the house with us that she is the star of the show.
So I thought it was kind of interesting, Andy, at the Michigan Dems event, had a big Gretsch thing on.
It was an event like honoring Big Gretsch
100%,
partially
100%.
for her 8 great years.
And then
as governor.
is like Kamala Harris is
president
amazing.
that is in.
I just thought that he was doing a little bit of that Rob Lowe.
Big NFL hat vibes.
He's like, I'm just happy to be here.
I do think it's an interesting thing that I've thought about this with Gavin Newsom. He's been like much more enthusiastically, emphatically pro Biden, which I think partially is because he was like the spinner in chief while things were going down there. But also I think like not out of his mind entirely is the fact that Joe Biden is still quite popular with South Carolina Democrats and black voters across the Democratic Party. Like, I do think that there's some interesting calculation happening, where some of these folks are like, especially white governors who haven't had to do, don't a lot of support in the black community that are like trying to throw flowers at Biden and Harris to, hopefully make some inroads across the South. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's just like this thing of if I'm, it's exactly what we said. I mean, it's you have to, if you see Harris where she is, you have to be nice to her. You have to be nice about her, but you have to eventually figure out a way to sort of dislodge those voters. And by the way, I don't know if anyone will be able to.
Yeah.
And so I think you're going to see a lot of these like funny approaches of the vice president over the course of the sort of early innings of the primary.
I do think it will become a major point of friction, both Biden and Harris, because I think that will definitely happen, what you just described.
Yes.
But then I think it will also cause both a yearning for and an opportunity for people to be like, are we losing our minds? Like, do people think 2024 went well? Like, I have nothing but respect for President Biden and Vice President Harris for, being good public servants, but like, this was a fucking disaster. And like, let's not all pretend that like, this is the direction we want the party to go, is like back to the Biden-Harris ticket. And again, no offense to them, but like, I do think it will cause a credibility crisis that we're already kind of exacerbated credibility crisis, I would argue the Democratic Party is already facing. And I could see a Josh Shapiro being like, guys, we got to call balls and strikes here. Like, this party needs to change and evolve.
100%.
So, and then Mark Kelly was in Pennsylvania, a nice little swing state, campaigning for Paige Cognetti, who's trying to unseat Rob Bresnahan, the greatest stock trader in Congress, which is Nancy Pelosi appreciates him taking that title from her. Love Queen Nancy. And then I thought this was super interesting. Isaac Dover from CNN reporting that Mitch Landrieu, former mayor of New Orleans, considering a little 2028 bid of his own. And I have to tell you, I think there's some major flags here, namely that he was the chair of the Biden reelect. I think that will be harder to run away from than like Pete being the transportation secretary and being like, I wasn't in meetings with him where I saw the decline or whatever. On the other hand, like the speech that Mitch Landrieu gave about taking down the Confederate flags in the state capitol, and like Mitch, it was maybe the best speech I've heard in the last decade by a Democrat, or 11 years might have been early, but he's really, really good. And so like, even though part of me is like, I don't think the chair of the Biden reelect can possibly be the nominee, there is a small part of me that's interested to see what he does, because he is just like a next level political talent. And as we've talked about, like there are a lot of some promising Dems, but I have not seen someone in my 1,000 hours of listening where I'm like, that is the person who is like the nominee. And Mitch is just like A+ political athlete. What do you think of it?
Mitch is really good. It's hard, I think, anyone, this is one of those where, it's an open field, man. So,
wide open.
Throw the Hail Mary. Mitch is super talented. He's really, really smart. He did a bunch of good work as infrastructure. He had a popular issue. Then he's starting from a position of low name ID, I think. But, he has a record of being the mayor and being a popular mayor in a majority black city. Mm-hmm. Getting some major moments. So, you can see the conditions by which it could happen.
Yeah.
It's an inside straight. I mean, it's a tightrope, but
yeah, I thought this was an interesting pitch. He Isaac writing about how, he kind of sees it as this moment, and I've written about this on my blog about how there is a once in a generation opportunity to build American democracy anew and build a democracy that actually works for working people, because Trump is tearing everything down. And he is sounding a similar note, maybe ripping me off in my I'm just kidding. He definitely did not read my newsletter, but saying, this is kind of like a post-Katrina moment in New Orleans. He says, you get to construct a new day if you win. And that's what 2028 and beyond is going to be about. More Democrats were with Landrieu that night upstairs, the famous restaurant in the French Quarter, including influencer Carlos Espina, who has 14 million TikTok followers and had keynoted the DNC main meeting earlier that afternoon. Multiple people in the room who listened to his toast told CNN later that they'd been surprised by how much it felt like a soft launch. So I just think this is super interesting. I think that thinking of this as that kind of moment, a post-Katrina type moment for democracy, I think is right. And I just at the end of the day, I do still have this belief that talent rises to the top. And I just think Mitch is really, really good and can kind of speak, as you said, to black voters and white voters alike and to working class white people. And, he kind of spans a lot going to demographics in a way that I don't think many of our candidates do.
It's just going to be hard.
It's going to be super hard.
It's going to be hard. But a campaign headquarters in New Orleans, that's sick.
Yeah, that would be sick.
Oh, wow.
That would be sick. The last time I was in New Orleans, it was like a epic snowstorm, and we were trapped in New Orleans for 5 days because they were like, we have no plows. We've never had snow before.
What's a plow?
Take it or leave it. The last thing I did want to bring up, there was this article in Axios last week with AOC wrestles with left-wing Dems as 2028 decision looms. The intrigue, AOC has a fraught relationship with some progressives who helped launch her political career. Her first chief of staff, Soikat Chakrabarti, co-founded Justice Democrats, a group that helped Ocasio-Cortez win in 2018. He's running for Congress in Pelosi's district in San Francisco, and Ocasio-Cortez pointedly hasn't endorsed him in the June 2 primary. She was asked about this week by a drop site news.
What's your stance on Choi? Because you have a close relationship.
I think for me overall, it's more about, I'm trying to think about the role that I am trying to play more broadly in these things. We've got 435 seats in Congress, right? And there is this kind of moment where it's like, and not just with this race, but with any race, once you go in, then it's like, what about this? What about this? What about this one? And I'm one person with, a pretty amazing crack, but also lean team.
What?
What?
It
reads to me like she just doesn't like him.
Yeah, but just say that. Just be like, Soikat.
I don't want to be a jerk.
Soikat was a dick.
He sucked.
He was a dick. I don't know. I don't know the details. I totally respect that. We've all worked with people who are like, look, I'm not going to torch your career, but if someone called me and was like, would you have any qualms with hiring this person? I would be like, maybe a couple qualms.
Yeah. I wouldn't hire him. I'll start a podcast with him. But,
exactly. That's it's a much simpler relationship. But and then. We were not the only people that thought that was a little bit of a dicey answer. Again, I bring this up only because there is a coalition on the left that is important. And the reason I dwell on AOC is not to, kick her over. All of this stuff is totally insignificant, I think, in the long run.
Yes, 2028 voters will be like, why did she not stand up for Soikat?
But there is this growing gulf, I think, a little bit on the left where the people that should be her biggest cheerleaders, and the reason that I'm interested in it is because I still think she has the strongest path to the nomination. Again, this stuff will all be insignificant water under the bridge, and there's not really, other than Ro Khanna, there's not really another strong progressive in the race. And no offense to Ro, but if AOC runs, Ro is not on the same plane as her right now. Maybe that changes, but listen to this response from Crystal Ball at Breaking Points.
It's not honest, number one. It's not direct. None of it makes sense. This does not appear to me someone who is comfortable or truly desires to be in a leadership role. And so it's just very sad to me because she has so much potential to be such an important force right now at a time when the political project that she has been a very important part of is taking flight, does have this momentum. Ana Lilia Mejia won overwhelmingly in New Jersey last night. That's awesome. By the way, AOC managed to endorse her without a problem, without it stretching her too thin or whatever. But in any case, right at the moment when she could really be pushing the ball forward, she's so reticent. And
Thoughts? You seem skeptical that that's a good take.
It's not that I think I'm skeptical it's a good take. This is me like not being a leftist and therefore not like being in the club to understand. But there is this thing where I just think, like AOC seems to just occupy the like great hope. And so it does feel like they just put all of this pressure on her to be exactly what they want her to be. When, by the way, there's a bazillion factions on the left that like have kind of gotten behind her, like these like micro factions. And so it just, to me, it's like, you kind of like give her a break. Now, the thing that I do agree on, because I don't think it's like, it's not, she doesn't want to be in a leadership position or anything like that. It's that like, it's hard, like, I understand what they are saying that, you have to be able to take live pitching, but in many ways, that's what she's trying to do. Like, I thought that, yes, she kind of got like rocked. She went to Munich and famously the Munich Security Conference, which is this big circle jerk in Europe where people talk about security. And if I ever get invited, though, it's an amazing event, really, really important. And it's usually like right around Davos, also a circle jerk. Anyway, and she went and she gave what I think were not necessarily bad answers, but sort of like, I read the Wikipedia once answers and got kind of raked over the coals for it. But I do think like that you can't have it both ways. That is what it looks like to have live pitching. That is what it looks like to go out there and take the answers as you're getting them. And so I just think people kind of got to cut her a little bit of a break. But also at the same time, if she does want to run for president, like, the heat is hot.
That's the thing. And like she's been super ahead of the curve when it comes to communications. Like she is one of the best communicators in the party. Again, I think talent rises to the top. And like the reason I think that she is a front runner for the nomination is not just that she, has a good lane, which is also true. She's just a super talented and charismatic person. But like, I do think that, when she hasn't been doing podcasts. She hasn't been doing long form interviews. Like, I mean, I track this stuff psychotically. Like she did all the fighting oligarchy rallies with Bernie in like early 2025. And then she kind of, she's doing some town halls in New York. I do think she's trying to keep her options open. She could basically walk into Chuck Schumer's Senate seat, I think. He will, in my estimation, either not run, which I think is probably the likely outcome, or he will lose a primary. You heard it here first. So, I don't know what she wants to do, and I think she is indecisive about that. But like, I do think I said she was ahead of the curve with the communication stuff. And part of that was like, she does these long Instagram lives where she's like taking questions in real time from supporters and stuff like that. And that stuff is really good and it's intimate, but it's not the same as being pressed by an interviewer. And she has struggled when she's been in some of these situations where I think the talent is there. It's just a question of seeing pitches. And she, so.
But yes, but to say she is also, I think, of like the progressive wing of the party, by far the best politician, the best tactician, the best communicator. So it is this thing of like, okay, yes, got to work better off the cuff or whatever. But the raw shit is there.
Totally.
And like, I'll say like, I had the opportunity to kind of get to work with her on stuff on the campaign. And like, she is brilliant as a communicator, as a positioner, as a person who's self-aware about how people, and so like, and I also get the logic that, okay, well, she's got this big platform and therefore, doesn't need to do the long form interview, doesn't need to do the whatever. But I think we're saying the same thing, which is like, at a certain point, if you're going to run for president, that's got to start happening.
Yeah. And the one other thing I'll say two things about the leftist base. And I have come around on a lot of like Bernie economic populism type stuff.
Yeah.
We got in all these like tiffs that I do not want to relive from 2016 with like the Bernie bros.
Yeah.
And like a lot of it I think was like, it's a mix of things that was just like us being like, woe is us. Like, how dare you? Everything you do is unfair and sexist. There was a lot of like sexist and gender coded stuff. And it is very clear to me that like when Zoran Mamdani is like palling around with Trump in the White House, everyone's like, brilliant. He has like worked Trump again and like, so charismatic that he's like forging these deals with the Republicans and, he's keeping on the police commissioner, Just Tisch, and like, that's fine. He's compromising left and right, which I think is good. Like I'm a pragmatic person. I think pragmatic progressivism is a good thing, but the same people that are like either tolerating or outright cheering that stuff, they're very quick to be like, AOC's a fucking.
I agree. So that I'm going to say what you just said, but say it again in a meeting.
Perfect.
But I do think that a lot of the pressure that is put on AOC from the left and the criticism that she gets from the center is because she's a woman. I mean, I think there is an element of this that is gendered. And like, we don't need to get into the is that a woke take or whatever. I just think that I have been on the 2 presidential campaigns for women. Like, you would see this on Hillary. It's like, you'd be in and Harris said the same thing. You'd see focus groups where voters would just be like, I just don't believe she means what she says. And I don't know why. There's just something. And it's like, oh, I know what it is.
Yeah.
I know what it is. And so I do think there is this element of you hear that same theme get thrown at her of, I just can't, I don't trust her. I don't know. And it's like, where Bernie and Zoran are given a long leash to be able to do what they need to do to maneuver. And so, I think that is another thing she will have to contend with if she runs for president.
Yeah, totally. And again, the only reason to spend this much time on it is I truly think that I would consider her the favorite to win the nomination at this point.
Whoa.
It's very early.
Whoa.
It's very early.
What?
But I think I think Gavin is super smart and interesting, and he's obviously sort of the early front runner in the. I think I have the odds here, but I think there's a bunch of stuff that's going to be hard for him to navigate. He may be able to navigate it or not. And I just think that there is just a massive bunch of people, all of whom are not perfect nominees, I would say, who are all going to be fighting in this sort of more moderate Democrat lane. And she is just super talented and kind of has a lane to herself. And, I think if she wants to do it, this is the last thing I'll say about her is the odds are right now, I think that more likely that she'll run for Senate. I would not. I think when you have a window to run for the presidency, if that is a thing that you want to do, and maybe she doesn't want it that bad. She doesn't seem to want it as bad as a lot of these people who are doing every cattle call in the history of the world and shaking hands with every Democrat to ever walk in Washington, D.C. But if that is something that she wants to do, this is the moment to run. Both because you want to do it when you are still fresh enough out of being a normal fucking person. Part of why she's such a good communicator is she was working at the bar until 2018. And I think that is critical. And when you wait 20 years of being in Congress, you don't have your same finger on the pulse that you do. And the other reason is just it's a populist, shake everything up kind of moment. And I just think it suits her really well. So if I was her, I would say run now. Not that it's her only chance. She's very, very young. She's 36, 37, 36, I think. But I would do it now if I was her.
I tend to agree. If I'm her, I think I look at this and I say it's time. And not because I am less bullish on she is going to be the nominee, although I do think she has a lane and a pathway.
Rob hates women, you heard it here first.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't trust her. And
yeah, exactly. There's just
something about her that makes me think she can't win. What I do think, look, the progressive side of the ledger is pretty empty and pretty weak. There's just not a lot of people there. And so it's an open lane. I think she has a unique opportunity to push the window and sort of push her agenda. Yeah, and I don't think, opportunity doesn't knock forever. I mean, again, I think AOC is going to be around for a really long time. And if it doesn't work, there's another seat she can run for. You know what I mean? It's not the end of the world. But, it comes at a cost. And running for president, you do put a lot of chips in the middle and you gamble credibility and you gamble all these things. And so, it's a risk. But I do think it is worthy of strong consideration.
And she has the star power. She has the fundraising, that nobody else can really match. She kind of has a lot of unique skills that I think will help her.
Hey, you. Yes, you. If you like this show, like and subscribe to our channel. It helps get the word out about our stupid bullshit. And we're really grateful to you if you do. Thanks so much.
Senate race.
Speaking of unique skills, we are talking about Texas next.
Old Jimmy Tallarico.
Old Jimmy Tallarico. A fresh poll, relatively fresh, couple days old, in Texas from T-Poor, which is a funny name. Paxton, 48%. Cornyn, 40%, which is crazy. So in that Senate race, you have the Republican side. You have Ken Paxton, who is a crook. I mean, he is a criminal. He is a bad man, but he is running up on John Cornyn. Cornyn is the incumbent Republican senator who is, I mean, a pretty conservative guy by all means, but not conservative enough for the base. MAGA lining up behind Paxton. Republicans in Washington desperately trying to keep Cornyn as the winner, doing what they can to support him because they think Paxton is basically Paxton is the pathway through which Tallarico could potentially win Texas. And you do see why in this particular poll, which is fielded fielded earlier in the month. The poll found that 24% of Cornyn voters reported they would likely vote for Tallarico if Paxton was the nominee. 10% of Paxton voters say the same if Cornyn is the nominee. An element of bullshit to that. But there is a truth to the fact that like discontented voters who are voting for Paxton may see a home more likely in Tallarico than in Cornyn. So that is an interesting thing. This is a little bit counter to a poll, although not crazy counter to a poll that came out earlier in the week. Gabby Birnbaum also reporting this one that said that Cornyn, just with a 1-point lead, a margin of error lead, but Cornyn put out an internal poll earlier in the month that basically said the same thing, showing Paxton is up with older voters, 55 to 69, Cornyn up above 64, and +5 with younger voters, which young Republicans supporting Cornyn over Paxton in Texas, I am skeptical given what I know about young Republicans, but who knows. Interesting from Jacob Rubushkin, if a quarter of Cornyn voters really would vote for Tallarico over Paxton, that would essentially cut off Paxton's pathway to victory, which is both a reason to treat that data point skeptically, but also explains why Republican voters are low on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dicey spot for Republicans. And again, it's just very funny because Donald Trump could have like very easily just delivered this seat to John Cornyn, and the control of the entire U.S. Senate may come down to this race.
Yeah.
And so it's just incredible that Trump was unwilling to do it because,
Trump will do
Cornyn's
it.
not MAGA enough.
But it does speak to something I think we talked about last week, which is MAGA sort of becoming this like Frankenstein's monster where Trump really doesn't have top-down control of it in the same way. Like, Dave Marcus, a conservative commentator, said 100% about all the abject recalcitrant of Senate GOP leadership is all about the recalcitrance of the GOP around the Save America Act. It's hard to blame Texas voters. The Save America Act is the sort of restriction of voting rights bill that's being pushed by a lot of folks on the right that has become a flashpoint, particularly with Cornyn being in leadership. They're MAGA voters pushing Cornyn to be stronger on this, and he has come out very strongly in favor of it, flipping on the filibuster, all kinds of things. That really has become a flashpoint, and you can see.
And it was a Paxton move. I mean, like as soon as it went to a runoff, Paxton like made a very cynical but smart play, like saying that he would drop out if Republicans finally delivered on their promise and passed the SAVE Act for Donald Trump,
which of course they will
and
not.
Trump, it successfully got Trump to back off. There was a lot of reporting saying Trump was going to endorse Cornyn because it was obviously the way to win the seat, and that play was successful. And Trump
Totally
stayed
worked.
on the sidelines, and now
Very, very shrewd.
adult or convict.
That's a big W. But yes, I mean, this is from earlier in the month that Trump's keeping his base at bay. This is from Axios, and Steve Bannon saying that this race is bigger than Cornyn versus Paxton, bigger than Bush v. Trump, bigger than establishment grassroots. It's this and more, which is a very just Bannonite way of, this is existential.
Everything
It's like,
is
all right, whatever. It's MAGA versus everything they hate, everything that screwed their country, everything they're wrong that believes to be righted. But this gets at, like, Trump's not in control. Like, he's worried about these people. Like, he is not telling them what to do. They're telling him what to do, which I think is interesting as a thought about the long-term trajectory.
And I will just say this, like, I do not think it will be a close runoff. If Trump does not endorse, I think Paxton will win by double digits.
Yeah, that seems pretty clear.
I don't agree with, I think by more than even the 48-40. I think Paxton will win by double digits. I mean, in these runoffs, you kind of get the base of the base. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Ted Cruz, that's how he won his seat. He lost the first round, I think, to David Dewhurst back in 2012 or something, 2010.
Yeah.
And won in the runoff. So I think Paxton's probably going to end up with that nominee.
I think that is right. You can see that this pressure is building in real time. Yesterday, Scott Pressler, who is Jonathan Van Ness's Wario, is in Texas and beyond. He was actually in Indiana over the weekend agitating for the bill, trying to advocate for the defeat of Senator Cassidy and Senator Cornyn if Save America is not passed. So the base is really agitating here. I love Scott Pressler, one of my favorite characters in conservative politics, because it does just, you're like, oh, there's like a voter turnout grifter everywhere. You know what I mean? Like everybody's got him.
So true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't say I'm super familiar with his work.
Yeah. Anyway, the markets basically agree with you. Paxton seems to be the safe bet. Kalshi, Polymarket predicted, all agreeing that Paxton is the most likely to get out. Slight downward trend in Polymarket. Everyone else taking Paxton more over the last few days, I think, in reaction to that poll. I think it seems right. Unless Trump jumps into this race, it seems pretty likely. There's still about a month left that things are going to stay in the same place.
Yeah, and again, I think the polling will underpredict how strong the vote will be for Paxton, because I just don't see that Cornyn supporters are they're not like, I don't think they have a lot of fire in the belly, like fired up to vote for John Cornyn, and there's nothing else on the ticket now, really.
Yep. And this then helping the Tallarico vote, saying that in this situation, Tallarico still the minority likelihood, still 46% in Kalshi, 44 in Polymarket, and 44 in Predict It, with the GOP likely to win 54 in Kalshi, 56 in Polymarket, 57 on Predict It. The polling also bears this out. I mean, it is much tighter when Tallarico runs against Paxton. And this is my thing. I don't think, if you were to ask me, I do not necessarily think that Tallarico is going. But the conditions by which Tallarico would win are all happening. A protracted Republican runoff that is brutal between Paxton and Cornyn. Cornyn even winning might depress the MAGA base. I think I'm a little more skeptical of that spin. But, Paxton really, driving votes to Tallarico. I do think there's some danger there ahead for Republicans, but this is where they're headed for. So, seems like if you're James Tallarico, you're pretty happy about what's happening.
Yeah, I think a Tallarico-Paxton race could be very, very close. It seems very clear to me from early special elections that have been happening over the last few months that the bottom is kind of falling out for Republicans with Latino voters in particular, and Tallarico really turned out a lot of Hispanic vote in the primary there. It's just like kind of a nightmare scenario if you're Republicans to have, especially like his whole thing is like this pious, seminarian running against the adulterer whose wife accused him of biblical betrayal or whatever. It's just, and a crook.
Yes, it is challenging. Instead, lead us to a mailbag question. This is just what went into AI.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mailbag. Let's dive into your questions.
Incredible.
I just didn't make a stinger.
That's very funny.
Anyway, this is a question from Josh Skolnick, who is, I would say, an OG regular commenter, friend of the show. Hi, Josh. Genuine question, he asked us, in terms of puzzle pieces, can a Dem win in a conservative-leaning state like Texas without articulating any policy views that are to the right of mainstream national Dems like Harris, Biden, or Jeffries? I thought this was a very good question.
It is a very interesting
And it is one
question.
where I have my head answer and I have my heart answer.
Go on.
My heart answer is that what you need to do is just say what you mean and people will give you credit for it and be authentic and all that kind of stuff. My political consultant brain is like, yeah, you probably do. And, especially if this race starts to get pretty tight. Now, Tallarico has come out and he has, criticized Biden on the border. He particularly on that Jubilee episode that he did, he was pretty strong about it. But even then he pivots back, he has his line about wanting to be like our front porch, welcome mat and a lock on the door.
Yeah.
It is curious, obviously he's got his left, right, up, down thing, which I do think scrambles the calculus a little bit, but, Beto losing by 3, there's still a gap you have to make up, and you probably do have to take a more, some positions where you can sort of sister soldier the party. On the other hand, oh God, it sort of flies in the face of be authentic and all those kinds of things. And so I'm a little it's hard to articulate. I think it's unlikely that you can win without some more conservative, like a John Bell Edwards on abortion kind of thing.
Yeah, look, I don't think there's this magic formula where if only you flip on 3 important positions, then you can win. And if you don't, you can't. But I think both of the things you said are true at the same time. You need to be authentic. You cannot just select from a hat I'll be for assault weapons or whatever, I buck the Dems on trans, whatever. You can't just pick stuff out of a hat and that's how you show that you're kind of conservative or whatever. But I do think that perhaps we should be trying. I think Tallarico is obviously a phenomenal communicator. He's excited a lot of people in Texas, and I think that some of his appeal, especially to the Cornyn voters, the aforementioned Cornyn voters who are disgusted by Ken Paxton, maybe Tallarico can pull some of those people over who are no, I'm actually a good upstanding Christian who believes this stuff and could not bring myself to vote for Cornyn, and Tallarico can appeal to me because I do think there can be cultural things. I think what you can't be, and I worry about this a little bit for Tallarico, there needs to be something that communicates to people, oh, you're not just a by the books on every position, lockstep with the Democratic Party. And I think Tallarico has a little bit of too much of the he just has very progressive vibes, he seems like he would be an indivisible chapter lead. Nothing about him is signaling whereas Graham Plattner is way to the left. I know you hate Graham Plattner, but just as an example, Graham Plattner is way to the left on a lot of policy positions, which I actually also think is kind of good. It's just makes you feel oh, this guy's just not part of the party, and our brand is so bad. Even Trump did some of this. He was yeah, I'm not really anti-abortion. Republicans are nuts on that, and the Iraq war was bad. Although he's I would like to do a new version of it.
I'll do it again.
I'll do a new Iraq war. But you know what I mean? I think you need to have signals that you're oh, this isn't just a by the books Democrat.
So your basic take is if he were to do that, it would just read as political posturing.
Yes, I think if he now was like coming out and trying to be like, I'm socially conservative, like people would be like, no, dude, like you're on camera being like, there are 6 genders and God is non-binary. You know, you can't just come out then and be like, but like, let's protect women's sports. You know what I mean? Like, it's just going to code as super inauthentic.
But I guess getting back to Josh's question, do you think he can win as is?
I think there are extenuating circumstances in Texas where if Paxton is the nominee, I actually do think, because I think in a sense, his like deep religiosity that is embedded in everything he does is kind of a zag from the Democratic Party, which like name 5 Democrats who have been to church. Like there aren't a lot. Let's be honest. Like we have become a party of like, you know, atheist Ivy Leaguers. And like, so I think that can be a little bit of the cultural thing. And like with Paxton being, you know, a not good person, like maybe that's enough. But generally, I think like there's a guy named Bobby Pulido who's running for a red but winnable House seat down there, Texas 15 against Monica De La Cruz. And he's like a musical artist who is well known for his music and is
they often are.
As they're famously known for that. And he's like genuinely culturally conservative. You can see like when they talk about abortion, he's like uncomfortable. He's like, I mean, I don't want to end, like I think women should be able to choose, but I wouldn't be having anyone have one, like, you know. And like, so I think maybe the answer is like we should try to recruit people who are more, you know, who are heterodox and have places where they're not just like, by, you know, lockstep Republicans, rank and file Democrats. If we can find a rank and file Republican that wants to run as a Democrat, maybe we should try that.
It's called Florida. Speaking of stretch Senate races. I will try to be quick because I know we're going long, people, but we got so much good stuff to tell you. The dozens of people watching are demanding more.
The clips will be just as short as they were.
They're like, it's 9 p.m. I don't want to go to bed.
I want to spend a little bit of time on some solid Republican Senate races that I think are eminently winnable that nobody is talking about. And just to put my cards on the table, like I'm not even talking about Florida, which I think is a stretch, you know, but people are starting to talk about given the Latino collapse that I mentioned before for Republicans. We're not talking about Iowa. I'm going deeper cuts. I'm going to start quickly with
we're huffing the opium now. This is like if they have to get you Narcan,
but for
the amount of opium, they've got something up your nose and they've got Narcan in your nose and a Blue Sky account in your hand. And here's Jesse Larrick.
That's right. Follow me here because I'm not opium. Like when it comes to 2028, I'm still like, we're probably going to lose again in 2028. But this is going to be a referendum on Donald Trump and people no likey right now. And we've got some very good candidates in some of these deep red states. Start with Nebraska, which is, I'm not even considering that deep of a cut because, you know, Cook Political finally moved it to likely Republican. I would basically consider this lean Republican borderline toss-up. We've got, and I have an ad here from Dan Osborne, who this is like this is what you do if you're running in like a Trump plus 20 state, which is what Nebraska is. And this is like, you're zagging a lot.
Fisher stabbed Donald Trump in the back.
Said he should drop out of the race.
Deb Fisher, just another creature of the D.C. swamp.
Deb Fisher has more in common with Hillary Clinton than Donald Trump. I'm voting for Dan Osborne.
Dan Osborne.
And Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. Osborne's with Trump on China, the border, and draining the swamp.
This finger is voting for Trump. And this one is for sending Washington a message for Dan Osborne.
I'm Dan Osborne, and I approve this message.
Is that Fight Agency?
It's got to be Fight. I think it is Fight Agency. They're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
And like, if you look at this here, like, so Osborne ran. He's an independent and very much not a Democrat. Don't let me taint him by saying he's totally a Democrat. He ran against Deb Fisher.
We're just having a show about political. This is political independence. I'm just doing analysis. Did you see he's with Trump? I mean, you've got to be
exactly.
Terrible.
Tough on China, tough on the border.
Yeah.
Hates Hillary Clinton. He ran against Deb Fisher in 2024. Outran Harris by 14 points. And a running theme here is like, it is going to be a totally different ballgame without Trump on the ticket. And these are, by and large, this one's a special election because Ben Sass resigned his seat and he's running against Pete Ricketts, which I think is just a great foil because Osborne is like a legitimate working class union guy running this populist campaign against a billionaire. But other than that one, these are mostly races, obviously, that last happened in 2020. And so I pulled together at Nebraska here. You'll notice, though, the odds. The odds are like more more favorable than you would say solid, but certainly not. It's certainly not a solid Republican seat at this point. But I pulled in 4 states that might sound crazy, but that should be on your radar, all of which were within 10 to 12 points in 2020 with Donald Trump on the top of the ticket, which like it was just always going to be impossible. Obviously, Jamie Harrison, we talked about last episode, raised boatloads of money, but like it was just an impossible task with Trump on the ticket. But the midterm electorate is totally different. And Trump is like, Republicans and Trump's approval is falling, the bottom's falling out a little bit. And a lot of these places, I think there's a real case. And sorry, the reason I say 10 to 12 points, maybe that's not crazy. This is the down ballot. Great little resource. If you guys haven't checked it out, I recommend it. They compile all the data points ever, but they compile the special election. They're tracking every special election. There've been 104 special elections at the state legislative and congressional level in 2025 and 2026. And on average, Democrats are running 9 points ahead of 2020 margins. So these are winnable races. These are not like this is not like out of left field. Like there's no fucking chance. And let's start in Mississippi because
it's always Mississippi. I have given to Mike Espy. I have put money.
Brandon Presley.
There is a point in every cycle where Mississippi like comes online and everybody gets excited. And the reason for it is because it has the largest black population of any state, percentage of black population.
Yeah.
And they keep electing these right-wing crazy people. And so it's sort of like if you can mobilize those voters, the theory goes you can really win.
But let me see how you feel after. I'm going to play you a little Scott. Scott Colom is our nominee there, and he is really, really good. He's like in his 40s. He's young. He's irreverent. He has a big personality, and he's been elected U.S. attorney. And
the best Crime Stopper is a job and an education. Cindy Hyde-Smith doesn't get that because she's too concerned about her job in D.C. And her latest vote is going to run up our debt, kick over 100,000 Mississippians off their health care, and put our hospitals at risk. Also, billionaires in California and New York can get a tax break. That's not who I am. I'm a 7th-generation Mississippian from Columbus. My father was a Republican who worked for Ronald Reagan. My mom served as a judge. She was tough and fair, both in the courtroom and at home. She kept us in line. Then she died.
She still keeps us in line.
Amen. I found the love of my life right here in Mississippi. How you doing? And I coach my 2 little girls, Lucy and Maddie's soccer team. Who wants to run some laps? No! Look, when people outside of Mississippi think about our state, they think about our past. I think it's finally time to look to our future. I want to boost wages for Mississippi workers because, let's face it, everything still costs way too much.
Scott Colom, you do not do the grocery shopping.
But I do see the bill, though. I want to eliminate income taxes on teachers because far too many are leaving our state. No taxes on cops either. I work with them every day and see how they put their lives on the line for us. And I will work with anyone from any party to save Mississippi's hospitals, which Cindy Hyde-Smith put on the chopping block.
So you see,
that is a really good spot.
Really, really good. And like he's calling out like Cindy Hyde-Smith for giving away tax cuts to billionaires in New York and California, which like, again, to me, it's like Tallarico. It's like, he's like, New York and California, those are places I aspire to one day live in, you know? Scott Colom's like, fuck New York and California, which is how you have to run in a state like Mississippi. He's talking about his dad working for Ronald Reagan. Like he's got a good mix of like authentic, legitimate personality and like, he's, friends with cops and he just locked up bad guys and he's working across the aisle. And Cindy Hyde-Smith is so bad.
Yeah.
And then let me just show you, like, look, nobody's even considering this a possibility. But you heard it here first. This race is in play, man. Look at this.
Dog.
I showed you the 2020 results. Okay, we lost by 10 with Trump on top of the ticket. 2023 governor's race, Brandon Presley comes up just 3 points short of Tate Reeves. And then in the primary earlier this month, almost identical amounts of votes cast on the Democratic and Republican side. Does that mean we're going to win? No, but it tells you that like this is in the ballpark. Like there's a world in which this happens. And like I'm telling you, Cindy Hyde-Smith recently, she was asked about why beef is so expensive because people can't afford to put food on the table these days. And she said, well, there's people have so many proteins to choose from. Horrible. She's horrible. And in 2018, she literally made a joke about sitting in the front row of a public hanging. Like in the middle of the runoff. Like, no.
I'm
She's
on a
so
protein.
bad.
I'm on a protein journey right now. Like,
it's working.
Hey,
I know, because my fucking chatbot was like, Rob looks buff and awesome in his shirt, and you look stupid with that deep V.
It's because I'm just eating Built Puff bars for dinner.
Exactly.
This show's sponsored by Built Puff. It's not really.
That would be great.
Sponsor us, Built Puff.
So,
I know you're watching.
I'm just saying. All right, I'll zip through a couple others here. This is the other one. I'm like
this is
bullish on. I'm bullish on.
My name is Dr. Annie Andrews, and for almost 2 decades, I've been a pediatrician in South Carolina. Parents trust me to treat their kids for just about everything you can imagine. This is an x-ray of a kid with measles pneumonia, a condition easily prevented by vaccines. This is a kid with cancer, one of the diseases the NIH doesn't have the funding to study anymore. And this is a kid who's been shot, which, despite being the #1 cause of death for children in America, is no longer classified as a public health crisis. And this kid, and there's really no other way to say this, is quite literally full of shit. And this is an adult who is also completely and unequivocally full of shit.
I mean, that's just quality stuff, man. So again, like kind of a unique candidate where you're running a pediatrician. She's been sort of campaigning against. There was just a big New York Times story this weekend about all the doctors that are running in the Democratic Party running against RFK and his anti-vax campaign, which he has been, clearly told to stop talking about so much because it's not popular. But the measles has been coming back in South Carolina, and then
we have Amy Acton in Ohio.
Yeah, there's a bunch of health professionals running, and it says in this Times article she's outraised Lindsey Graham in each of the last 3 quarters, accumulating $6.5 million. He does have a bunch in the bank.
Isn't that like the Jamie Harrison effect of donors donating because they are like Lindsey Graham?
Yeah, but like in a state like South Carolina, that allows you to compete. And again, it's just not gonna. It's gonna be higher educated electorate than in a presidential. It's gonna like lower turnout. They're gonna be more college educated voters, and that's really like the parties have sort of divided that way. And again, Lindsey Graham just super unpopular. Like recent poll, some semi-recent, had him 15 points underwater. And she put out an internal last month showing her down 5 on the initial vote and within the margin of error on an informed vote. I would really seriously keep my eyes on these races, still not being considered a real possibility. But Jamie Harrison out here saying Lindsey benefited from those who were motivated to vote for the straight ticket for Trump. However, Trump won't be on the ballot to save his ass this time. And I agree. I'm not saying we're the favorites or anything, but like this is a winnable race. And Amy, like similar, Annie Andrews, Scott Colom, they're both like young. They're good on camera. They're putting out content that's like sounds like like they are of this generation and like want to upset Washington status quo.
Who are you? Okay, between South Carolina,
I think Mississippi is my favorite. Mississippi's the one.
You're like going down there right now.
I'm like Senator Scott Colom. Great to meet you.
Great to meet you.
I remember when Cindy Hyde-Smith was a senator. That was weird.
That was wild.
She's gonna lose. All right, one more. I'll do one more dive. I'll go short. Montana. This one is kind of like there's an independent running, Seth Bodner, and on the Republican side, Steve Daines pulled a little switcheroosies where he waited till literally 2 minutes before the filing deadline and was like, by the way, I'm not running for re-election and I have anointed this old white guy to be my replacement and nobody's running against him. It's too late, which I do not think Montana's one of those states, like, yes, it leans very red, but it's also just like fiercely independent and like definitely hates Washington, D.C. And that is like the most D.C. bullshit. And also the reason I think like an independent can win there. And the question is, will the Democrats stand down? Because this Seth Bodner is a Green Beret. He's attractive. He's compelling. He's very charismatic. And I think he has a legitimate shot, but only if the Dems stand down. Otherwise, they're just going to split the Republican party line vote. There's a little fight here. Tester people are working for Bodner. They're like, would you like to ever win an election? And the Democrats, as we are wont to do, are like, no.
Simply,
no, we refuse to win elections. And instead, we would like to wear shirts with donkeys on them. Good job. You get to wear the D next to your shirt and never be elected anything.
And if we win, that'll be for sale at the FBI, the Jesse Larrick FBI merch store.
The Jesse Larrick FBI merch store.
Yeah, so Montana's always an interesting state because again, like there was a Democratic senator there, like, couple years ago, and a Democratic governor. Like it has a not progressive, but it has sort of a populist streak to it. And it's only exacerbated by the fact that like lots of people are moving there from LA and other places they can't afford on the West Coast. And so, there is this thing, but the overall story of Montana is the Democratic brand is just toxic as hell.
And this is a running theme in Nebraska, and like there's independents running in South Dakota, in Idaho.
Yeah.
It does say something about the party that everyone's like, the only possible way to win is to never be associated with the Democratic Party. And like, that's true. I mean, there's a reason Tester has been like, if you want to have any chance here, stop doing what you're doing and let this independent basically have the field to himself. In Nebraska, there's an interesting little battle going on where the Democrats are running someone whose like explicit plan is to just win the Democratic nomination and then take her name off of the ballot. And the Republicans are propping up someone who's totally a Republican, trying to help him win the Democratic nomination, just so he'll be on the ballot. So it's very funny. If you are Riley Neal, the leading Democrat in the Montana race, I would ask you kindly, please stop. Please, I beg you to just do something else with your life. Come on our podcast. We'll have
come here.
A running segment with you. Just stop running for Senate.
Jesse's going to kick me off the show just for Seth Bodner.
It's me and Riley Neal. No, Seth Bodner's going to be in the Senate because Riley Neal's going to be a podcaster.
With Scott Colom.
Exactly. And then Kansas, I'm just begging Sharice Davids to run because, again, Roger Marshall, super unpopular, but Sharice is by far the strongest Democratic candidate, and she is.
Right, remember when they were going to redistrict and Sharice was like, all right, bet I'll run for Senate. And they were like, no,
we don't redistrict. But the filing deadline's not till June 1st, and I would bet she's still looking at these kinds of numbers with some intrigue. So you heard it there first. We're winning all those races for sure, totally.
The Jesse Larrick guarantee.
The Jesse
So
Larrick.
if you had to go make a bet, because you can do that now because our state of moral turpitude is growing, would you take any of them?
I think yes. I would say I think that Dan Osborne's going to win in Nebraska.
You think Dan Osborne's going to win?
I think Dan Osborne's going to win in Nebraska, and I genuinely think certainly it's a good value, Scott Colom. I think Scott Colom can win in Mississippi.
It's a good value. We're so fucked. Okay, so let's say
I've quit gambling. By the way, my wife would want me to clarify that. I no longer gamble.
I'm okay. So that puts us what, in the mid 50s in the world?
Yeah, in my little fake world, it's a great way to like be riding on our high horse and right until we lose to like JD Vance and Kash Patel, Vice President Kash Patel.
Vice President Kash Patel.
The merch man.
Amazing. Well, there's something going on in the news that might prevent that.
Iran update.
A calamitous war.
Calamitous war. It is still happening, is my take on things based on...
That is Jesse Larrick geoanalysis. You can only get here on Nobody.
I was a foreign policy spokesman for former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
That's right.
Which, famously we lost. So the U.S. today seizing an Iranian cargo ship, and as Tehran rejected a second round of peace talks in Islamabad, all as like, it was so wild to me that we were going live on Thursday and we were like, we'll see if ceasefires are still a thing. And like on Friday, Trump was like, the war is basically over, which he's said for 7, 8, 9 weeks. And the markets were like, yay, the war is over. I was like, have you not seen anything that's happened for the last 7 weeks? And sure enough, it doesn't seem like the war is over. We are seasoned ships. They are not showing up for peace talks that Trump has announced. We'll stay on this, but at this time of recording here, of going live, the markets are having a little second doubts. Oil prices are going back up. People are like, maybe it's not as over as we thought. Here's Trump's announcement of us commandeering the Tauska. The USS Spruance has intercepted the Tauska. So, I mean, that sounds dicey. Marines hijacking an Iranian cargo ship. Doesn't seem like war's over type stuff.
No, that's not the vibe.
Not end of war vibe.
End of war vibe. Very much more war vibe seems to be what's happening here.
Right then, and then that's the prelude to peace. The other story I just wanted to throw in here from this weekend, which was just bonkers. A great Josh Dazzi and Annie Linsky TikTok on Trump's jerkiness, his lack of self-control, among many other. The whole article was bonkers. But Trump demanded the military go get them immediately. They're talking about the hostages that we briefly had, which incredible rescue mission, but like crazy situation. They're saying aides kept the president out of the room as they got minute-by-minute updates because they believed his impatience wouldn't be helpful. Instead, updating him at meaningful moments. And then still, he has made risky pronouncements without input from his national security team, including his post about plans to destroy the Iranian civilization, saying, see seeming unstable could help spur the Iranians to negotiate. At one point, he mused that he should give himself the Medal of Honor. So
great.
I don't have a ton of confidence. Anytime the commander-in-chief is being kept out of rooms because he can't be trusted to just like lose patience and be like, fuck it.
I'm bored.
I'm bored. I'm like, dude, only podcasters should be bored of talking about this fucking war.
Seriously.
If you are commander-in-chief, you should be have a attention span of a human adult.
I agree with that. Unfortunately, too much to ask. Americans not loving it.
Not super into it.
And definitely taking this. I mean, again, the war at 67% disapprove. I mean, that is bananas. And he's stuck. He can't get out of this.
And 54% strongly disapprove. And this is a current situation Trump finds himself in. Is his strongly approve ratings have slowly ticked down and his strongly disapprove ratings are ticking up. And again, when you look at like midterm turnout, it's going to be a referendum on Trump. And if his voters aren't fired up to vote for him and Democrats are super fired up to vote against him, you know, that's how you end up with Senator Scott Colom.
Yep, 100%. That's the way. The markets, very interestingly, seem to think a deal is likely, a U.S. nuclear deal, saying before August, a 62% chance. So they're still kind of bullish that this is going to wrap up and go well.
And I do think it will wrap up because it seems very clear Trump is done with this, but like it's not going to be a good deal.
Yeah, no.
They seem to be holding more cards.
They seem to be holding more cards. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, it just seems to be a ongoing mess for him, the thing he can't get out of, and his leverage goes down by the day, right? I mean, they have a card. They thought they weren't going to play it. They played it. Bad. Doesn't stop people from having a little bit of fun, though, as with the Strait of Hormuz. The cruise ship Celestial Discovery appears to have just successfully run the Strait of Hormuz. Do you imagine you're like, hey, I just had a nice Mediterranean cruise booked. Where's it going to go? It's like, we're going to go to the
Patel
war.
piloting this cruise ship? Like,
Kash Patel's like, see you in Valhalla, passengers.
Exactly. Dude, that is just like such a wild move for a cruise ship guy to be like, we're going through the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah. Speaking of war, by the way, Palantir earlier tweeting this absolutely unhinged summary of Alex Karp's book. Palantir, of course, a controversial AI and tech company that is a defense contractor that goes through big data to do a number of unsavory things, such as surveil Americans and other things like that. Drone technology, all the kind of stuff that you probably don't want AI doing. These guys are on it. They're very unpopular with the progressive base. They tweeted a summary of Alex Karp, their CEO's book called The Technological Republic, in which they said, among other things, 6, national service should be a universal duty. We should, as a society, consider moving away from all volunteer force and only fight the next war if everyone shares in the risk. 15, the post-war neutering of Germany and Japan must be undone. And number 22, we must resist the shallow temptation of vacant and hollow pluralism. Just really quick. What the fuck? What the fuck is this? What the fuck? The domestic surveillance company is just Nazi posting on Maine? It's just like, hey, by the way, the people who make the money off the wars are like, everyone should be in the wars too. And by the way, more places should be able to do wars. And also, white people who aren't white are bad. Like, what the fuck? Hey, these guys are wondering, like, why is everyone so mean to us? And it's just like, they're like, yeah, whites are the supreme race. Germany did nothing wrong and everyone should be in a draft. Yeah, that's fine. And by the way, I'm rummaging through your fucking internet history right now, which they're probably doing to mine. There's nothing bad there, probably.
Yeah, like, why does everyone hate us? Question, do you think it's because you wrote Mein Kampf for tech people? Like... Probably that could be a reason.
What the fuck?
While we're not busy like bombing Iranian schools, we had some thoughts on what we should stop being mean to the Germans and start being mean to brown people, and also do a draft.
It does just get at this thing, like these tech guys, their entire like ethos is just that I've been damaged and I am the victim and all of this stuff, and then they wonder why everyone's so mad at them, and they're just like, yeah, like we're using our technology for
the worst things possible
for fascist surveillance.
Crazy. I mean,
fucking crazy.
I do think it's going to be a little bit of a JD Vance problem,
Yes.
He's Peter Thiel is his mentor.
The man is like all in on this. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. I mean, it's an ideology. And it's this idea of I mean, this company is clearly embedding. It is built to become part of the national apparatus of government. I mean, it is dark shit. And this is the thing, everything with Peter Thiel, every depth you go deeper on this man is like, you are dark, you know? I mean, like insidious.
Did you see the interview when he was like asked if the human race will continue to exist or should continue to exist? And he paused for like 18 seconds. It's like, I mean, in a set, like, I guess if my brain is merged with a chip, is that the human? I don't know.
And then all of these fucking freaks are like, why are you so mean to me? It's like, well, no, because
you're trying to wipe us off the face of the planet.
So fucking Jesus Christ.
Like the same reason the Iranians didn't like being told they were about to be genocided by like nuclear weapons. Like people want to live, you know?
Turns out.
Open letter.
We have a couple of letters that we want to read, a couple of open notes. We have a couple of things to say, a mailbag, if you will, in the other direction. And so, Jesse, I'll let you go first.
My open letter is to just our political leaders on both sides, but mostly to Democrats, because no Republican gives a flying fuck what I say. There's nothing on this piece of paper right now, by the way, but it's for effect, you know.
I also brought a piece of paper.
But you have stuff on it.
Yes, but unfortunately, in between me walking in the door and being on the show, I lost the piece of paper. We were getting ready for this segment, and I was like, where's the paper?
It's also...
Oh, shit, fuck, I found...
Well, it's also very dark.
We're cutting
it's extremely dark. It's extremely dark. Who can read in a room like this? My letters to the political leaders. Can we just stop with redistricting? Tuesday is the vote in Virginia on the redistricting initiative, wherein Democrats have attempted to turn a 53-47 state into a 10-1 congressional map. I would argue that's not super democracy forward, but also not super popular. Like Spanberger has wasted all of her political capital on this. I cannot turn on the goddamn television without like Barack Obama being like, you must get rid of the districts that we told you to draw the last time. And also like I'm not even a Virginia voter. And like we've spent $40 million, the House Majority PAC has spent $40 million on this thing. That's the polls are showing it's up by like 4 or 5 points. It's gonna be super close on Tuesday, I think. Like the whole redistricting is going to come out in a wash where nobody ends up with, it's like Republicans gained a few seats in Texas. We gained some in California and Virginia. Wes Moore spent like 6 months trying to get 1 seat in Maryland because it was 8-1 and we wanted 9-0. Like, stop. You know what we should try? Being popular and having people who are good at talking, and then maybe we can win elections in normal districts.
Do you think that the redistricting was not worth it? Let the Republicans do it?
No, I don't know.
Or is it like it's over?
It's over. It's definitely over. Move on.
You're killing Abigail Spanberger.
I was like the only Democrat in America that was like kind of annoyed by it from the outset, I guess. I was like, I don't know.
So you like Newsom shouldn't have done it.
I'm not saying he shouldn't have done it. I think we needed to like punch
You're
back.
like democracy
and that was a good
exist.
No, I mean I think democracy should exist. That's the whole point. The Newsom thing was supposed to be, I thought, like a disincentive for them to just keep going apeshit with it. Then we did it, and it's like,
but they went
and then
apeshit with
Indiana was like, okay, we're not gonna do it, and JB Pritzker was like, I'm not gonna do it. We already fucking rigged our maps as much as I feel comfortable with. Like, let's just stop. And do you realize how bad representation is gonna be when everyone's district is changing every fucking 2 years based on whoever has control, and there's we're gonna draw new districts. We're like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be arguing for, and you're supposed to represent like your actual constituents. Like, I actually have to stand up for farmers because I live in a very agrarian district. Like, whatever. I'm just tired. You're tired. I don't want to see any more ads. Stop advertising.
Stop advertising at you, a DC resident. Well, because I found my letter, I have an actual letter.
See? It's probably going to be tighter.
Dear scooter riders, get off the damn sidewalks. The name sidewalk implies both side and walking. You are not walking, you're on a scooter. I know you get mad when I stand in the way and you want to get by, but I am making a profound political point. You are on a motorized vehicle and you belong on the road. Now, you may say it's not safe on the road. Precisely. If you don't feel safe on a motorized board on wheels in the middle of the road, then you should not get on one. I don't really even care whether you're on one person or one of those insane death-seeking people who wants 2 on a scooter. That is your stupid choice, not mine. But when I'm walking and you ask me to get out of your way, I simply will not. If you want to feel safe in a motorized vehicle lane, get a car or a motorcycle. Have a blast. But none of those things can be on a sidewalk unless you were Tiger Woods. He probably won't drive again anyway. So in summary, please get off my lawn. Sincerely, Rob.
And I mean, with that, why don't we scoot on into our Monday?
Scooting onto your Monday. Thanks for being in the dark cave. Nobody knows anything. We greatly appreciate you sticking with us. I know there were some stops and starts on the stream. Really grateful. And I do want to say we're on our 3rd episode, and we've gotten just a huge, seriously, like meaningful response from a lot of folks. And so we just really appreciate you watching us. If it's the first time tonight, the second time, the third time, this is the 3rd time, I'm very sorry. But we'll be back on Thursday. And
with Liam Donovan, Republican strategist.
Liam Donovan, a Republican strategist and one of the great follows on Twitter. Yeah. So we're really excited to have him.
And we've got Jen Psaki coming on soon. We got people in the hopper. It's not just me and Rob. We know people, I swear.
Yeah, we have friends.
We have friends, and then you won't have to listen to us
and you
the
won't
whole
have to
time.
listen to us the whole time.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. And
have a great Sunday night. We'll catch you on Thursday.
Have a great Sunday night. Stay with us. Or don't. Leave. Bye.
Nobody knows anything.